Hello, my name is Aaron, and I've watched entirely too much Star Trek.
And my name is Clara, and I've watched none.
These are the voyages of the Friendship Enterprise.
Its continuing mission to boldly go where I've never gone before. Aaron, how do you feel about dietary salad?
Well, I love it when my male best friend tells me that I have to have a salad instead of a steak or whatever it was that he wanted. Hamburger? I don't
think he says what he wants.
No, he doesn't, but we know it's meat.
Not just any salad, a dietary salad.
He's just looking out for him. I don't see the problem.
Yeah. But how do you feel about dietary salad?
I don't really know what it is. Is it just lettuce?
It looks like it's just
Or
lettuce.
like kale, maybe? I don't know.
How do you feel about it? How would you feel if someone set that down in front of you and said, "This is your meal"?
I'd be pretty sad.
Okay. Do you think
if that was it. Because it looked like it was just a pile of green.
Yeah, not dressed.
Yeah, no.
This will be relevant a little bit, folks. I'm just gauging Aaron's...
the full after a full review of one episode.
I'm just gauging Aaron's interest in dietary salad.
I mean, it's no dietary cookie.
Which is what I'm going to call everything I eat for now. This is my dietary burrito.
I mean, burrito will help you go.
Yeah, but so would a salad.
I know.
And also, I don't think that's the only thing that makes something, quote, dietary.
I know. It actually wasn't. He was conscious of his weight or something.
Yeah, he put on a few pounds.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to this. I just think it's really funny that they call it a dietary salad and not just
That's what the Corbomite Maneuver is you push the dietary salad on the floor when Bones isn't looking, so you have to eat it.
Sure. You give it to the dog.
Yeah, you give it to the dog, yeah.
Even the dog doesn't want lettuce.
No. I'd be surprised if they did. But yeah, we got two doozies of an episode.
Yeah. Two doozies of episodes.
The Dagger of the Mind and the Corbomite. Corbomite
Maneuver.
Made up mineral.
Yep. And a made up maneuver.
Yes. And I guess an imaginary dagger, honestly.
Everything about these episodes is fake. That's my read on them.
Yep, even Ensign Rand's hair is fake.
Yep. A dagger of the mind does not exist. The Corbomite Maneuver is a lie. What a world we're building here. In the future.
In the future.
The future is built on lies, folks. You heard it here first.
I know. Not an especially bold prediction.
It's not. Tell us, Aaron, what happens in Dagger of the Mind? So this is episode number
9.
9, okay.
Production order number 11.
Okay.
Do you know where the title comes from?
No.
It's a soliloquy from Macbeth.
Really?
Yes.
Read it to me.
Okay. So this is when he's playing to murder the King of Scotland.
Sure.
The titular character.
Yes.
The play. Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle toward my hand. Yep. Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat oppressed brain?
That was beautiful. Thank you for reading that to me. Yes. Now I do remember, is this a dagger that I see before me is very famous.
It is, yeah.
From Macbeth.
It's okay.
But I did not realize, I didn't put that together with Dagger of the Mind.
There you go.
It doesn't really, Macbeth, it's not like they literally just pulled that and were like, that sounds cool. I'm thinking of the episode, there's no Macbethian.
I mean, I guess it's about being possessed by madness, so.
Yeah, I guess so.
Works.
Yeah, maybe. That might be a stretch, but I'll give it to you.
Okay. Well, don't give it to me. I didn't write it.
I'll give it to Gene Roddenberry or whoever wrote this episode.
Shimon Winselberg.
Great. What a good name.
Yeah.
Shimon.
Under a different name.
Oh.
The credit. S. Bar David.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, plot.
It thickens.
The Enterprise makes a supply run to planet Tantalus 5, a colony where the criminally insane are confined for treatment. It's like the Arkham Asylum of Star Trek. The facility's director is Dr. Tristan Adams, a psychiatrist famous for advocating for more humane treatment of patients. After the Enterprise delivers supplies and receives cargo from Tantalus, a man emerges from the container taken aboard and assaults a technician. Reaching the bridge, the intruder demands asylum, but Spock subdues him with a Vulcan nerve pinch.
Yep.
In sickbay, the intruder identifies himself as Simon Van Gelder, and a computer check reveals that he is not a patient, but Dr. Adams' assistant. Yeah. And that's where it goes from there.
There's no more
Well, there is, but it's quite long, and it's like the whole plot. I don't want to.
Oh, no. But basically what goes from there is you find out that Dr. Adams is not the humanitarian that we think he is.
No, he's spooky.
He's a bad, bad man. He is Macbeth.
Maybe.
I mean, if anyone in this episode is, I think it's him.
I guess.
Anything else we need to know?
Before we jump into talking about the episode, do you want me to do my little background trivia sweet treats?
Yeah, a few sweet treats.
And then we can jump
what was
into
going
the New
on
York
in the New York
Times.
Times. Hit me with I love a sweet treat.
We'll do the sweet treats first? Okay.
Yeah, I just ate dinner. I could use a little dessert.
So this one is stacked with guest stars.
Okay.
Which, like, guest stars who actually have, like, pretty substantial careers.
Okay.
So we have, like, 3 main guest stars, right?
Yep.
We have Dr. Adams, who's James Gregory, who's, like, a big TV name.
Sure.
Who I didn't recognize, but his credit list is quite long.
Okay.
And then we have Dr. Van Gelder, who's Morgan Woodward, who I was on, like, Gunsmoke for a long time, a lot of Westerns. The thing you learn about the 60s when you look at all these guest stars is, like, there were just a ton of Westerns. Everything was Westerns. There's TV shows, movies.
Okay.
But he was also in the Cassavetes movie, Killing of a Chinese Bookie, which is where I recognize him from. He's, like, this sort of mobbed up.
I say sure as if I know. I don't know, but sure.
So, like, but, like, it's a serious movie credit, is what I'm saying. And then Dr. Helen Noel, who's the sort of third main guest star. Mariana Hill, she's in a bunch of Westerns, too, including opposite Clint Eastwood in High Plains Drifter.
Oh.
And with Jim Brown in a movie, another Western, El Condor.
She's so cute.
I know. And she's also in Godfather Part 2, which I have no memory of. But so, like, another serious credit.
Yeah. So she was in Real Things.
Mm-hmm.
They all were. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, they carry a lot of weight. Like, I feel like they carry a lot of more weight than the guest stars usually do. Like, of the story. Especially with Dr. Helen Noel being pretty central to a lot of the plot. So it makes sense why they would get people who could carry a scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was surprised by how stacked this one is.
Okay. What a sweet treat.
Yeah, so that's my main sweet treat.
Okay.
In terms of trivia. But yeah, so shall we see what was going on?
Yeah, what was happening in the big
New York
world?
Times. So this is November 3rd, 1966. So we've actually jumped a little further ahead than we were last time.
Yes, they must have had like a little
hiatus. Yeah. Some Nelson Rockefeller news.
Ooh.
Governor of New York at this point. He is linking 4 city Democrats as some liquor scheme. Charges 3 legislators and a judge involved in a shakedown attempt.
Must be nice to be rich, Mr. Rockefeller.
That's right. I don't know if he was married to Happy Rockefeller yet or not.
Oh, what a name.
No, she wasn't happy. GOP is spending heavily in the South, which is an interesting prelude to Nixon's Southern strategy in 68. So little hints of that. Some Mayor Lindsay news. FAA is considering making Kennedy a domestic field, so it must have something to do with the airport.
Yeah, sounds
possibility
like it.
of shifting all international flights from Kennedy International to a less congested airport. So even back then, it was a fucking nightmare.
Can we find another place for these planes to go?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then it was Newark, and Newark's bad too.
Correct.
Go to LaGuardia, folks. That's my hot tip.
It's a good one. North Koreans apparently creeped across the border into the south and killed 7 people.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Creeped or crept?
Crept, I guess.
What does the news say?
It doesn't say. I just said it. It just says foray staged by North Koreans. Do they kill 7?
Wow.
So apparently there was some sort of back and forth.
Sure.
Some Americans got wounded, I guess.
Nothing big.
Yeah,
No space news.
No, I don't see any space news. There's some atomic treaty news. U.S. Navy's bombarding North Vietnam.
What's new?
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot.
Darn.
Space-wise here, but yeah. So
I'm really eager for my space news. Well, it's not all the news
that's fit to print.
That's fit to print, but it's close.
But in the world of Star Trek, we have the Tantalus 5 colony.
Yeah, lots of space news in Star Trek. It's all space news, baby.
There is some space news in this one. Because we're first introduced to this colony about how it's been the subject of all kinds of praise, right? It's this guy's fancy new humane.
It's a humane penal colony, and I gotta tell you, I do not like how excited Captain Kirk is about the penal system. I'm with Bones. A cage is a cage. And just a little prelude to my attitude towards both these episodes. I think Kirk is a bit of a scumbum.
Wow.
And I think Bones, especially, needs to find a better friend. I'll get into it, but that's an overall assessment of these 2 episodes together. Kirk is a little scummy, and Bones does not deserve Bones.
Aww.
Maybe he doesn't even deserve Spock, but Spock's kind of his own situation.
Wow, some heavy criticism.
Yeah, I'll give some
Spock's
criticism.
catching some strays over here.
No.
Okay.
Spock is okay. He just is kind of a different... He doesn't seem to have the same relationship with Kirk as Bones does.
No,
so.
It's interesting, yeah.
It's a little different.
At this point, it's a little different for sure.
Anyway, that's my kind of overarching... one of my overarching thoughts. I don't like Kirk's attitudes in these 2 episodes.
Okay.
He's way too excited about the penal system.
Well, somebody has to be.
Yeah, but why couldn't it be the guy who runs it?
Oh, I know, but I mean, you have to set up the drama, right?
Yeah.
And Spock can't be, because it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. I think kind of overall, other than, Kirk being kind of Kirk the jerk, I really liked this episode.
Yeah, it's great.
I thought it was probably the best paced episode so far.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that I'm kind of struggling with Star Trek generally is I often have no idea where the episodes are going until the last 5 minutes, right? The next episode we could talk about it, but I was the whole time what is happening until the very end, which works, but they're not dropping enough little cookie crumbs that you can sort of maybe start to deduce what's going on. There's just have been, not every episode, but there have just been a few where I'm just I do not know what the conclusion of this is going to be, but it's not a good feeling, right? It's a what the fuck is happening kind of a feeling. And I thought this episode did a really nice job of you obviously don't really know what's going on completely, but there's some signposting that's happening throughout that that Dr. Adams is maybe not the best guy. Kind of not from the beginning, but from early on, right?
Yeah,
that something is up, something's not right. And so you can kind of see what's going to transpire, but you don't know how it's going to end, which I think is the difference, right? So I thought it was really well paced. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was well acted. All of the guest stars were great. Spock was incredible. He has so many just absolutely fantastic facial expressions throughout the whole episode. And I just thought this is probably the best episode I've watched so far.
I would agree. It usually ends up on like, top X number of episodes, list, because it is very good.
So yeah, overall, really liked it. Did not like Kirk in it. But yeah, that's kind of my assessment. What are
my overall thoughts? Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it's great. I also agree the pacing is really good. For me, I think it's interesting, sort of what we talked about way back with Where No Man Has Gone Before, with like the ESP thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have another episode that's really interested in psychology and modern psychology, here even more so, because ESP is kind of this like made up thing, whereas this is like very specifically drawing our attention to institutionalization and those sorts of questions. Like, it's important to remember, right, when this episode aired, like they were performing lobotomies and things still. So this feels to me very much like a commentary on how the mental institution system works, and really this like general cultural interest in mind control and mind altering, right? Like the idea that you can control behaviors or you can implant behaviors in people. Like, you have the famous Milgram experiment where you like, the electroshock one, they prompt people to follow orders. Yep. So there's this idea, right, that human beings are suggestible and respond to authority. So I think it's drawing on that. And even though like it wouldn't come out until the 70s, right? Like the CIA was dosing people with LSD to try to get them to like be brainwashed or like mind control. Like this is when the Manchurian Candidate was coming out. Like there's all this interest in the mind and how manipulative it can be, or how subjective it can be, and how much it can be controlled by outside forces. So it's interesting to see the show grappling with that, and rather than just like a standard like prison story, right? Like you could very easily just take out the mental institute part of this and it would still work as like a escape prisoner story, right? But they're very deliberate about making it about psychology and that. So that's, I guess, what primarily interests me about this episode, in addition to how well it works, is just it seems like a much more clear social commentary episode than the past few have been. I don't know. There's like all these interesting little quirks about it, like the weird symbol on Dr. Adams' jacket that's like a hand and a dove and a sun. And so it has like this religious kind of like Moonies.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a pretty cult. It feels like it does feel like very cultish, right? Which I think is always kind of like tendency, I think, when you're talking about brainwashing, which is not exactly what's happening here, but mind altering, right?
It's like close, right? It's this idea that you can control somebody by implanting a suggestion.
Correct. By altering their brain somehow.
Cooking it like an egg, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. And like the people on the penal colony that they encounter very much give sort of off like a culty vibe, right? They're all dressed similarly, and they're just sort of like one note responses are very much like
like they've been programmed, right?
Yeah. And so I do think it does feel very much like sort of Waco, Texas situation.
A little bit, right? I mean, we're still pre Charlie Manson, but like it's a similar kind of vibe, right? And like they're in these like multicolored outfits that are they're like vaguely suggestive, like the alternative society, right? Of like California, hippie culture, early hippie culture. Like it's not quite tie dye, but it's adjacent.
Groovy.
It's groovy, right? Sure. Like the women have these like kind of long.
They're like in caftans.
It's
situations.
Like it's very like Sergeant Pepper kind of.
These are one of my obsessions. So I'm obsessed with these outfits. They're so good. They're like caftans, but they have like cutouts like along the tops of the arms. They're beautiful. They look so comfy and really great. But they definitely do. They're groovy.
They're really groovy. So there's that angle too. Like there's definitely a reference to like
hippie
drug culture. For sure. Gene Roddenberry was a bit of a druggie.
Who's surprised?
So I don't think it's a totally unsympathetic portrait either. But I mean, there's an interesting mix of, as you're saying, like cult. So it's like kind of religious and psychology at the same time. And it's interesting is that there was a psychologist who was writing at the time, Philip Reif, who talked about like psychology is the new religion, like that it was going to replace religion in modern life, right? Like you have the same thing. You have this cast of priests who are the psychologists who know how to administer healing and spiritual, like replacing the mind for the soul, that sort of thing, and that they're the sort of secret order in the same way that priests were. And so I think it's interesting to think about it because that religious symbol, right, on like it's a very odd
it's a
inclusion because like they're supposed to be Federation people, right? Like they have otherwise it's the same like those work kung fu suits.
they do kind of look like karate outfits.
They're like all those
like martial arts clothes.
It's like a black turtleneck thing underneath like a onesie, but it's a robe, like there's a cut in the middle of it, and there's a belt or something around it. It's a very strange. It kind of looks like all those like James Bond minions in like the early Sean Connery ones where they're just in like weird outfits.
And like the guys in the transporter room are wearing the same outfit as Dr. Van Gelder.
Right.
It's just a different color.
Yeah, it's red.
So,
I think it's supposed to be like a work smock.
Yeah. It's just
like a coveralls, but future.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's very weird though that they have this special symbol that we're never told what it is, but it must have to do with the Tamlos 5.
Yeah, sun, moon, and
it's like a dove.
Sun,
it's a dove,
and a
sun,
hand.
and a hand. It's very Christian looking.
It is. It
it's
really
super
is. So I think it's the dove.
For sure. But even the hand,
the dove in the hand,
for sure. But and it's this sort of disconnect then between this benevolent external image and then what we find out is going on.
Yeah.
Courtesy of
malevolent.
Yeah, courtesy both of Dr. Van Gelder, but also then of course when Kirk and Dr. Holly Noel. What was it? Helen Noel?
Helen Noel.
I want to say Holly Noel because apparently she and Kirk met
at Christmas.
At the Christmas office Christmas party, which is wild.
Which is so funny.
But I do want to get back to what we were kind of talking about, which is the disagreement among really the big three about the penal colony that they're going to, right? Because Kirk, as you said, is pretty pro.
Kirk is really excited. He's excited to
read all about this. Yeah, he's trying to tell get McCoy on board because McCoy is very skeptical.
Yeah, and McCoy says a cage is a cage, and Spock says, "I'm fine with it." He said, "Where there's you are fine with like 40 million people committing violence against each other, but when one person does it, it's a crime. Where there's no emotion, there can be no violence," which I think is really interesting because like 5 minutes later, Dr. Van Gelder bursts into the bridge and he is supposed to be like emotionally blank and is only committing or like threatening to commit violence, right? I mean, at this point, we don't know that he's emotionally been wiped out, but we find out later that he says like there's nothing, no feeling, there's like no brainwaves, there's only what Dr. Adams is essentially like implanting in me at this point, which is very interesting considering Spock's assessment that where there's no emotion there's no violence, and Spock himself always claims to be emotionless, but he obviously is not this, right? So what is Spock, right? It's kind of, it's just like a lot of questions, that interesting questions that come out of this episode.
Yeah, I was really interested in his distinction between, I guess, public and private violence. That this is just kind of thrown out there and then not really
discussed,
done much with. Because, I guess he kind of agrees with it, but there's this wrinkle, right, of when he says that, it's like, well, does he really agree with what's going on, or is he saying that? Like,
I think he's just Spock. He's just kind of being an enigma.
Because it is this weird commentary on like who has a monopoly of legitimate violence,
right?
But nothing's really done with it. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
because it's an interesting like philosophical question that just never really goes anywhere. And Dr. Van Gelder, it becomes clear as you're saying that he's not actually violent per se. It's just he wants asylum, right? And Kirk even points his eyes at the point of a gun,
right?
Something along
those lines. Point of a gun. Yep.
And of course, Dr. Adams is very, very friendly, very eager to help, very forthcoming with information.
And so this is why, this is what I'm saying when the pacing is really good. It's like, you're like, something is up with this guy, right?
He's too friendly.
Right. They're not telling us, but something is up with it. And I just think that, that's perfect. They haven't really done something exactly like this.
Yeah, I think the closest is the salt vampire, where we know what's going on and no one else does. It's the only other one that's like similar to this, where you have a pretty good sense from the off, like what the threat is. But right, yeah, I really like that about this one, is that it's pretty easy if you're paying attention to figure out that something's off.
Yeah.
Something's rotten in the state of Tantalus 5.
Yeah. He's so helpful. He so wants to be helpful. But he keeps saying that Dr. Van Gelder is extremely violent.
Clever and extremely
violent. Yep. Even though we've only seen like a few acts of violence from him, he's like very adamant that he's violent. But you kind of learn later that he's really only violent because of Dr. Adams' treatment. Yeah. So, right, what questions does that raise about then? Right, Dr. Adams treating violent criminals this way. Is this like an indication that, right, they could become violent again?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a suggestion, right, that they leave worse than they go in, I think. Which takes us back to what I was talking about with like the commentary on the mentalists, because that was like a common thing, is right after they have a lobotomy or they go through these like pretty primitive drug electroshock, which were all overused and extremely common. Like people came out much worse than they went in, and I think we're seeing that here, right, where he comes out and he's totally like, he can't even articulate what he's thinking without extreme pain. He's confused. Not violent, but appears violent, I guess. So it's clear he's not his usual self, right? Because we know, like, he's supposed to be a medical man. Like, he's not supposed to be this kind of raving lunatic. And he has these moments of lucidity, right, where he tells Bones, like, "Don't sedate me." Yeah. And he knows that, like, he's trying to warn him about not to have Kirk stay the night down there because they go down to the planet. Yeah. And he's like, "Don't sedate me. I'll try to be calm," or something along those lines, right? So like he's aware at certain times that, of what's going on, but yeah, it's very clear that the treatment makes people worse. Yeah, which is not clear to me what the goal of the treatment.
Right. Like, well, I think it's just to make people obedient, right? Okay. I mean,
is that's the intended goal, I guess? Right?
I think so. Okay. I think because we see there's the scene where we see the oh my gosh, what's it called? The mental.
Yeah, the thing in the ceiling.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But like we see the scene, right, where like Kirk and Dr. Noel are with Dr. Adams and he's explaining to them the mental neutralizer, and he's like, again, big red flag. He's like, "Oh, it's not really it's experimental, it's not really working. Blah blah blah." And there's the guy in the chair receiving treatment, and when Kirk and Dr. Noel leave, Dr. Adams is like, "You'll forget everything you heard here. If you remember it, you'll feel pain." So I think it is, right, it's like control
certain impulses. Yeah. So so Dr. Adams' malevolence is really this benevolence that's malign results, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's an interesting villain compared to some of the others we've seen.
Right, like he's just trying to control this population rather than like fix them. You can't see me using scare quotes on this audio media, but like in any sort of positive way, he's just sort of erasing their impulses for anything, right? Because when we see people from the penal colony who receive treatment who are being interacted with, they're just like zombies, right? They're they have no emotion, they have no what's the one? I enjoy my work.
Always a warning sign.
Like, so he's just making them have absolutely no emotional
personality of any sort, right? And I mean, we have the other therapist who's there with him, not doctor, but her name's Lethe, which is can't get much more obvious than that, right?
For anyone, Aaron likes to do this sometimes. For anyone who doesn't know, Lethe is the river of forgetfulness in Greek mythology. So
I mean, it'd be like calling her a lotus eater too. You know, like it's this idea of like forgetfulness is bliss or something.
Yeah.
So and she's also like kind of space, like she's not really totally blank.
She has no
yeah. She's also totally blank. So so it's a
well, she's a doctor, but she was she's a patient as well.
Correct. Yeah, she like was a therapist, but now she's
yeah. And we never find out exactly why Dr. Van Gelder is subject to the machine. We know.
I wasn't clear if he did it to himself, because there's a suggestion that he
so Dr. Adams suggests that he does it to himself.
Oh, is that where the suggestion is from? Okay.
But then when Spock is like doing his like mind meld thing.
Right, that's right.
He says like he experimented on me, like he erased everything, no emotion, no thought, like there's just pain. Okay. So we never really find out. I think it sounds like Dr. Adams was just experimenting, like he was his lab rat.
Okay.
But can we talk about Dr. Van Gelder's face?
Sure.
This is the meanest thing I'm probably going to say on this podcast. He looks terrible. First of all, how is he not sweating all of his foundation off? Because he's clearly wearing some sort of caked on makeup. But he's also extremely sweaty. Yeah.
I think they spritzed him.
Whatever they did, they shouldn't. They should not have done it.
They're trying to make him look feverish.
It looks awful. And then we get these horrible close-ups. And they're just absolutely terrible. And I know he's supposed to look crazy.
He is.
But, like, he doesn't have to look so bad. They really did this actor a disservice. And I would be mad if I were portrayed in such a, frankly, grody way.
I do wonder partly if, like, high-def TV is less kind to makeup more generally. Like, I think that is part of what's been going on here. Because we talked about the makeup before.
Yeah.
Being heavy or...
Yeah, really bad. It continues to be bad.
So I'm thinking back, like, if you watched on, like, a VCR even, it would look less noticeable.
Fair enough. Or in black and white.
Or in black and white. So I think part of it is that they maybe weren't as careful with makeup because it didn't matter as much, perhaps.
Fair enough.
Because like in films, right, you wouldn't see makeup this heavily used, I don't think.
I don't think so. No.
So part of me wonders if that's partially an effect of like a tube television is not going to give you the resolution we're used to.
Where you see every single
pore. Yeah. I mean, think about like local newscasts you see sometimes. They don't always look so great either in high def.
I mean,
like none of us do. Yeah.
You can scold me all you want.
No, I'm not scolding. I'm just suggesting he looks
bad.
Yeah, it's not great.
I mean, thank you for giving me a reason. I do accept it.
I was trying to give you a reason so that way it wasn't just you being like this hideous man.
Yes, no, that is helpful. But I mean, he still looks bad.
Yeah.
There's one point where he's like doing something. There's like 7 like wrinkles on his neck. It's like his like neck, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Someone needed to tell the directors to like reshoot those scenes for this guy's.
They're on a budget. They can't.
Truly. Yeah. Other than Dr. Van Gelder looking terrible. Yeah, I was really annoyed by Kirk throughout a lot of this episode. Because he starts off and he's like, I love the penal system. Yeah. It's great.
Well, he says it's great now, right? That's the thing. He says that this reform.
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah.
But
I'm just saying it's specific to
don't
this.
Defend. Stop defending.
I'm saying it sets us up, right? It sets us up for this whole...
Well, Kirk loves it.
Yeah.
Kirk is like kissing a picture of Dr. Adams every night. He loves this
that penal. Wolverine meme.
He loves this penal reform.
Now, hold on.
And, he's so excited when Dr. Adams invites him to go down, and he's like kind of snotty to Bones about it.
He is.
Like really snotty. And then Bones gets his revenge.
He does.
And sends him down to this penal colony with Dr.
Oh my God. My note for that was just Bones is fucking with Kirk.
Yes, and it's really good.
It's so good.
Who is this adorable,
yeah, she's very cute.
She's so cute. Yeah, she's got like this cute little gap between her teeth. She's so cute. this adorable doctor that Kirk like flirted with. Like it doesn't even sound like they ever.
No, I think it's just supposed to be flirty because later when like Dr. Adams implants the suggestion in his brain, right, it goes further.
Yes.
So I think it's just they were flirting at like the office. Sorry, it was like I think it's like the science lab Christmas party or something. Yeah. It's this very funny, like vaguely Mad Men sounding like situation where they have like a punch bowl in that like crazy botany like lab with the talking plant or whatever.
Yeah, the plant is like hanging out there, serving punch or like wearing a lampshade on its hand. I don't know.
I like Dr. Noel. I think she's a great character.
I really like
she can hold her own. Like
I like Dr. Noel a lot. I think Kirk is so shitty to her. I think everyone's shitty to her.
Yeah.
There's like this whole series of exchanges early on when they get to the whatever Tantamount 5. What's it called? Tantalus 5. And that was close.
Tantamount's good.
And like Dr. Adams keeps cutting her off. Or like she'll say something and he'll like cut her off. And you can tell she like gets sort of annoyed with it.
Yeah.
But this is my issue with Kirk, is like he's like so gung-ho about this penal colony. And he gets sent down there with this cute little doctor, and it's like, first of all, I hate this. It's like so uncomfortable. But then he like instantly is like suspicious all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then it's up to Dr. Noel to be like, no, like this is all good. This is all above board. Yeah. And I'm like, wait. He thought this was the coolest thing since sliced bread. And now all of a sudden he's like, now I'm suspicious. Even before he sees the machine.
Yeah, I guess it's when he first sees the people walking around.
Like it's just like such a weird, like sudden. It's like a weird sudden switch where all of a sudden he's like the hero and who like suspects everything. Well, and I don't like.
He's like slightly suspicious before he goes down, though, right?
No,
I thought he was a little bit because something.
He's like really excited.
Okay.
No, he's like excited to go down.
Okay, because I was trying to remember because there's something that's like that Dr. Adams says. I thought that maybe it made Bones suspicious. I don't remember. There's something he says like before they go down.
Oh,
he's like
he says
only bring
a small
party or something. It's somebody notices. I don't know if it's
I think it's
Spock or if somebody like reacts to that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just don't like Kirk's like all of a sudden he's like in hero mode and it really bugs me. Because then Dr. Noel is in this weird position where she's the one who's like, no, everything's all good here. It's all above board. And I like her. I want her to be the one who's suspicious.
Well, she is,
She becomes suspicious.
Yeah.
She isn't at first.
No, but she becomes suspicious.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't like Kirk in this episode. He shoves a gal into a He kisses her and then he throws her in the heating duct.
Now, hold on a minute. That's legitimate.
That's what you do on all your
good time.
Here, honey, climb in there.
Climb in there and find this circuit breaker that'll kill you if you flip the wrong switch. Oh, by the way, you trained on it? No? Good luck.
Bye.
I'll close the grate behind you.
Oh my gosh, ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like her like shimmying through the grates was there for Dad. Watching the show.
For sure.
Oh my god. Oh jeez.
I love when she says, we're talking about Dr. Noel. I love when she says, I know my profession.
Yeah.
That's like one of the best like lines of the whole episode, right? He's like, are you sure you know how to use this? You know how to do this? And she just says, I know my profession. But this also implies that people who are, psychiatric doctors of the future, like these machines are not uncommon, right? Like she knows what it is. She knows how to use it. And then she uses it in the weirdest way to like alter Kirk's memory of the night they met.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It's really weird.
I know. Is it like a wish fulfillment thing? It's
I
very
think
strange.
so. And then and then Dr. Adams catches him, and then he's like, "Oh, you're madly in love with her."
Yeah.
And then she backs way off. This is the interesting thing. Like, it's like she actually didn't want that.
It's very strange.
It's really weird.
That's why he puts her in a vent.
Because she's all of a sudden like, no, I'm not interested.
Sending mixed signals.
But she is great. I mean, like, she's a great character. She is a woman of action, right? She pulls the breaker. She gets
she pulls
knocked down, and then this like creepy guy is like coming at her, and she kicks him into the thing. She kills him.
Yeah, well, the electric shock does, but
sure, but
she kicks him and knocks down knocks the shield back down. She's like
she's a really.
She's very similar to
1968. She was a strong female character.
She's very similar to Hot Lips.
Whose
name I'm embarrassed to say I'm blanking on, from Where No Man Has Gone Before. It's a very similar character, right? Except, like, I think coded younger.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, she's a little more, I don't know.
She's more plucky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's a slight difference there, but it's a very similar character in terms of being, like, capable and knowledgeable and an expert.
Can we talk about when Spock goes into Dr. Van Gelder's mind?
Yes, the first appearance of the Vulcan mind meld in the series. Yeah.
So that happens. Can you tell me some things about it?
Yes. First off, here is presented a little differently than it will be elsewhere. Probably because it's the first time. Like, he's kind of cagey about it. He's like, "This is the secret of my people."
Yeah.
Which, like, in the future, not an issue.
Everybody's mind meld.
Yeah, it's not like a hidden technique in these other episodes, but here it is presented as this like secret which was funny to me because I forgot about that. But it is often framed as dangerous. That is consistent across the series, especially for people who aren't Vulcan. Like, it's a risk.
Okay, why can the Vulcans handle it? Just because their brains are stronger? Yeah,
I think it has to do. Well, it's like partly just with their emotional discipline.
Okay.
So, like, we'll learn more about the process throughout the series and like what it can and can't do. Like, it can transfer memories and things like that. But yes, for now it's more just it has to do with their sort of self-discipline. But I was funny too that the script is very explicit that it's not hypnosis.
Yes, he says it's not hypnosis. This won't affect you, he says to Bones, who's like standing 5 feet away. I was like, I didn't think it would.
He pulls out a pocket watch and says,
when I say pinto bean.
It makes sense why they had to clarify, because then, like, when he starts talking to him, it sounds like fucking hypnosis. And, like, there's some other things that are different. Like, the hand placement on the face is wonky as hell in this first one. Like, later on, it's much more consistent, like, the side of the... Like, there's an alignment. Like,
he didn't want to touch his face. All that makeup.
But, like, he's, like, all over. Like, he starts one place.
He moves.
Yeah, he moves around. Like, there's still, again, not how it works in the future episodes.
Okay.
They kind of clarify the process. But so here, right, he can use it to kind of help him access these suppressed, I guess, in this case, memories, right? So a lot of times when the Vulcan mind meld is used, it's for getting at memories that are being either blocked. It can kind of be used as like truth serum.
Okay.
Like, you can kind of interrogate someone that way. And like I said, you can transfer memories. We'll see that happen, like consciousness, things like that. But here it's pretty much just to help Dr. Van Gelder talk about his feelings.
Okay. Or his lack thereof sometimes.
Yeah. Or buried.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's the first appearance of Vulcan mind meld.
Very cool. Well, it was very cool. I really thought it was it was interesting. I just think this whole episode, and there have been other instances of this before, right? Where, like, early on in an episode, Spock will say something about, like, I have no emotion.
Yeah.
And, like, that's wrong. But Spock is so proud of it. But then they use, like, other things in the episode to show, like, what it actually is to have no emotion, right? The people on Tantalus 5 actually have no emotion.
Correct.
Well, that's not Spock.
No.
Spock just represses emotion, but not all emotion. Like, he's sassy as hell in this episode.
I know. It's funny. He, like, still kind of smirks and smiles at this point, which as the series goes on, he becomes much more.
That's Blaine.
Stoic. Well, it makes sense though because like yeah, it does because like the whole thing is that he's suppressing his emotions.
So funny.
He's still funny. It's just it's less like sometimes he's big cheesy smile on in these early episodes. It's very strange to someone who's been watching. I
love it. So I like funny Spock.
Don't worry, he's still funny.
Okay, well, either way, I just think it's very funny that he often is like braggy about how he has no emotions, but it's like obviously he does. He just has figured out a way to not react to them. That he says like I don't have emotions.
It's partly that he's just like to irritate Bones, I think.
Well, I also think it's like a plot setup, right?
Yes, for sure. Yeah,
because he's
in the next one too.
He's done this other times where he talks about not having emotions, and then like, right, someone either doesn't have emotions or has like big emotions, or Spock, right, like in the Naked Time, he has this like emotional breakdown. Right. So
he is half human,
right? Well, sure.
So,
but whatever. Control yourself.
Wait a minute, you said you liked it.
No, I do.
Can we talk about how Dr. Adams just dies because he's lonely? That's sort of the conclusion, is he died because he's alone when this thing was like cooking his brain.
Oh, well, is it because he's lonely?
That's what they. Well, no, it's because he's
there
alone.
To like pull him out.
Well, that's what was weird about it. I was like, is it because no one's giving him direction? It just like totally like wipes his brain, which I guess is what happened.
I guess so. I don't really know. The end is. I do have a note here, like. Then there are some loose ends, right? Like Dr. Adams dying is a little like, huh?
You know? Yeah, I guess we're just supposed to see it as like, just like wipe his brain so much that he's like,
there's like nothing to put in, right? If there's no input,
right?
It just
his brain,
shriveled
up into a little raisin.
But like, then what about Kirk? Right? He's been subject to this, so like, what are there any?
I think he's just going to go around shoving Dr. Noel in vents for the rest of the series.
I guess so. I mean, truly, like, is there any side effect, like lingering effects?
Well, right. Or like, what happens with Dr. Van Gelder?
Right. There's no. Well, don't they talk about Dr.
I guess they say
like,
goes back and he's gonna he's gonna correct the or like end the treatment or something.
So we do kind of get a wrap up on him, but like I don't know what's gonna happen with Kirk.
Right. I
like,
guess,
does he think that he like tried to have sex with Dr. Noel? Because that's the memory she put in his brain. Does he think he's madly in love with her? We know that he can like override it, right? We've seen him, override his programming, but
I guess does it wear off if it's not repeatedly?
Maybe I have no idea.
Repeatedly given or something.
It's very unclear.
Because like, how does Dr. Van Gelder recover too?
Right.
So I'm guessing like it must
wears off,
fade or something. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll accept that. I suppose.
much to everyone's relief.
Yeah, it's true. Because if I didn't. You'd find me on Reddit.
Oh, no, I meant much to everyone's relief it wears off.
Oh, sure. Well.
So Dr. Noel can go back to work or go to the next year's Christmas party.
Yeah, not get assaulted.
Knocked down.
Speaking of assaulted, I fucking love kissing in old movies and TV shows where it's literally
like
just
the whole mouth.
But like that's
yeah.
Press their mouths together and then like move.
You just press your lips together and blow.
But it's not even the lips, right?
Yeah, it's like open mouth.
It is like you attempt, like, do your best attempt CPR. To eat the other person's face.
Yeah.
Like, starting with the mouth, and then just like
wiggle around.
Move your head around a lot. My one big obsession this episode was definitely the caftan outfits.
Yeah, for sure.
Uhura has an incredible manicure again.
And a different one.
She's gonna. I mean, every episode, her manicures could be my obsession. She always has incredible nails.
She does, yeah.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to say about this.
What was my segment again?
You were supposed to ask me. Teach me questions. Teach me questions.
I tell you about the Vulcan mind meld. I feel like that's the only like canonically important thing here, I think.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to
the Corbomite Maneuver?
Yeah.
Yeah, very different episode. I do enjoy this one though.
I liked this one less until the end, and then I found it really funny.
I enjoy it. Like it's fun. It's not as good,
but you enjoy it watching it for however many times.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know how many times I've seen this one.
But you at least kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
This for me was one episode where I was like, what is happening? I'm intrigued, but how is this going to resolve? Anyway, do you want to tell us a little bit about the Corbomite maneuver?
Sure. Am I telling you the plot first?
Yeah, hit me with the plot.
All right. So this is the 10th episode, but this is actually production order number 3.
Okay.
So if you notice, Uhura's back in gold again.
Yeah, we can talk.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about it now. Production number 3. There's a lot of like character introduction. Yam and Rand.
Yes.
They're basically like introducing her as if we've never met her before. And there are a few other things, you know, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank, but I feel like there are a few other times where it's like this is the first time we're meeting these characters.
I mean, I think that's why there's so much attention to Spock being emotionless again, because you know it's a way to introduce him, and then like you know McCoy and Kirk have a pretty extended conversation. Kind of like that's reminiscent of the Man Trap.
Yeah,
in terms of having the two of them together, but. Yes, this is the 3rd production order, but didn't air until 10th. So the plot. Enterprise, commanded by Kirk, finishes a 3rd day of star mapping when novice navigator Lieutenant Dave Bailey spots a large multicolored cube spinning in space. He advocates attacking it with phasers. Kirk instead orders the ship to back away. The cube pursues them, emitting harmful radiation, and Kirk reluctantly destroys it. And shortly after this, a giant sphere approaches the Enterprise, and we meet Commander Baylock. And it sort of takes off from there. This is chase and cat and mouse game.
Yeah. If the last episode was about psychology and psychiatry, this episode, if the plot centered around people practicing these things, this episode is a very psychological episode.
Correct. But not about psychology.
It's
about poker.
This is like one of those episodes, and you actually get them in other TV shows as well, where it's basically like, you know, you have mankind being tested by some
alien.
Yeah. To see like how worthy are we? Yeah. And that's essentially what's happening here.
Correct.
And then you get to see kind of how various people react under certain emotional and you know, psychological constraint and stress. Because I think that, and I think maybe that's what I mean when I said we're being introduced to the characters. Like, I think this is a really good episode to show, how these characters operate on a psychological or emotional level, because we'll get to it, but when they're presented, with this very stressful situation, they all react in different ways.
Yes, correct.
And it's pretty, clear. Yeah. So, yeah. Just to start off, sorry. We need our New York Times.
We do
I'm getting ahead of myself.
You want to get into it,
I'm like the cube. I'm getting ahead of this shit.
So this aired originally on November 10th, 1966.
Okay.
So what do we got here? Interesting.
Ooh, interesting.
So there's elections in West Germany.
Okay.
And the sub-headline is Christian Democratic Wing in Bavaria supports him, this candidate. And it just says, Nazi past may hurt. Yeah. Ooh, yuck. Oh, Ronald Reagan emerging for the 1968 Spotlight. This is the first appearance of Ronnie and Throat Goat Nancy.
Here he comes.
Canada's starting talks in Moscow and Vietnam.
Okay.
Some Saigon news.
Naturally.
Easier divorces urged in Britain. Official panel suggests plan for decrees by consent following separations.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah. That's an interesting little bit of news there. A lot of election news for 68.
Okay.
GOP finds 68 outlook brighter. That's the main headline. So this is following, I guess, the 66 midterms.
Okay.
Gains 47 in the House and 8 governors. So there you go.
Great.
Yeah.
Again, not much relevant to what we're doing here, but always interesting to know what's going on in the worldwide context of outer space.
That's right.
I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, this episode starts off, we're up on the bridge. It's all cool.
Kirk's not even there.
Kirk's not even there. And actually, I jokingly, I was watching this with my husband, and I kind of wasn't mentally tuned in for a second, and I was like, did they recast Kirk? This guy, this Lieutenant Bailey, looks enough like Kirk that, and Kirk wasn't on the bridge, right. And I was like, am I having a stroke? Is everything okay? And then obviously they, called him Lieutenant Bailey, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a different guy.
But
interestingly enough, right, a few minutes, whatever later, McCoy and Kirk have this conversation about how, you saw yourself in him and you promoted him too fast, and you can't blame him for not being great at his job when you're the one basically at fault.
He's too young. Listen to that voice.
Yep.
That's what McCoy says.
Then I said, listen to that voice because he sounds like Kirk.
Oh, I thought it was because he sounded young.
Oh.
Because he's doing all the command drills or whatever, and they're in the turbo lift.
Yeah.
Listening to him. I thought it was because he sounded.
Oh, I thought it was because he's talking about how, right, Kirk sees a great deal of himself and.
Oh, right, he does see that, but he's also saying, right, you promoted him too fast.
Yeah.
So I think he's saying he's not ready.
I disagree, but that's fine.
But isn't the whole thing is that he's not ready because he's too.
But I don't know if it's because he's too young, right?
Well, I think it's maybe, I don't know. That's how
I thought it was he promoted him too fast because he saw a great deal of himself in him. Right. And yes, that means he's young, but that might not necessarily be why he's bad at his job. It could be because he got promoted too fast.
Well, I think that's what McCoy is saying, though, right? Is he's not ready to be.
I don't think
this person.
We're going to agree on this.
Okay.
But yeah, the cube. This cube is ridiculous, folks. There's nothing that distinctive about it. It's just a spinning multicolor cube.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at a still image certainly will not give you the sound effects that they gave this cube, which is this incredibly annoying, musical cue that every time the cube appears, it receives a fanfare.
It's a little jazzy tune.
And by the end of the episode, once you have heard this fanfare a bajillion times, you maybe want to go crazy. Like some people in this episode did. I also shudder to think what this cube looked like before this was digitally remastered.
Oh, were you watching the remastered ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm pretty sure they're all remastered now.
Yeah, I know, but you can see the old ones still. The Blu-ray I have has it has both.
Oh, but I don't have that.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if you had the option.
I do not have an option.
Okay.
I can only watch remastered.
Okay.
And I shudder to think what this cube looked like.
Yeah.
Before it was remastered.
Yeah, it doesn't look a lot different.
Well, that's comforting, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they probably just sharpened it a bit for the remasters. I guess the sphere definitely looks different, but I don't think the cube is actually that much different.
Okay. The sphere was also a concern.
Yes, so Lieutenant Bailey, Kirk sees in him potential, but he freaks out because of this cube.
Yeah, this cube really gets...
It really just fucks with him.
I am so sick of this show already, and I'm sure it gets worse before it gets better.
What happened? I feel like
it's just it's... No. I still love the show, but it is too horny for Captain Kirk. Folks at home, the first we are on the bridge, Kirk's not there, the cube appears, they're we gotta call the captain. The captain is down in the medical bay, taking a physical.
We had Dr. Noel last week. And gotta go something to the ladies.
Of course he is shirtless. Of course he's shirtless. And then he's shirtless for a long time. But you know what? I was thinking about it. I was laughing at it initially. I was like, this is very ridiculous. And this show is so horny for Captain Kirk. But also, if this show were happening in 2025, they would do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's any different.
No.
Just the body type is different. What's a hot male body in 1960 is very different than 2020.
2025. I'll tell you.
You're talking about like the women too.
It's Dr. Noel's pointy bra.
Well, she was anticipating Madonna with that.
Yeah, well, every lady was between like 1941 and Madonna. Madonna did not pioneer.
The underwire bra was a serious underwire back then.
Madonna did not pioneer the comb bra, folks. It was Dr. Helen Noel in episode 9 of Star Trek: The Original Series.
I'm on the ground. I'm like, oh my god.
Yep.
Anyway, so there's a great line before that where, because Kirk is like, he's like, why didn't you tell me that the alarm was going off, Bones, during this exercise? Remember, he's like exercising.
Oh yeah, and
he's like, why didn't you tell me the thing was flashing?
And he says something about like, go ahead.
Am I a doctor or a moon shuttle conductor?
Yes. And then he like says something about like, if I told you every time an alarm would go off, like I'd never do anything else or something like that. Like,
it's very good. I love the like snotty little.
Yeah, they have a really catty relationship in this episode.
Yeah, they're like an old married couple. I love
it. It's really very funny, but again, it doesn't make me like Kirk more. Just like makes me like Bones more.
But yeah, he does put his shirt on, I guess, before he gets on the bridge, right?
I think so.
Because there's this tracking shot of him coming off the turbo lift.
Yeah, I noticed.
It looks handheld.
It does look handheld, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it.
I noticed the camera
because it's
shot.
so unusual. Like,
yes.
Because before this, it's all pretty much standard single camera, like TV, and then we have this over the over the shoulder shot that's a little shaky. It's definitely handheld coming off the turbo lift.
Yep.
And Spock says something. I forget what it is, but we see Spock, right?
Yep.
And it's a very cool shot. And there is this sort of claustrophobia to this episode because we're often in tight spaces or in like close-ups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe not extreme close-ups, but close-ups of faces or pairs of faces. So there's some interesting camera work here that plays into this atmosphere of like kind of oppressive, contained space. It reminds me of like those old like World War II submarine movies where like everybody's like sweaty and like they're getting on each other's nerves and like there's stuff like there's depth chart like there's danger but you can't see it, you don't know what it is, so you're just sort of like naturally start sniping at each other. So it reminded me a lot of those kind of classic movies, like something very similar happening here, right? Where like it is more about like the psychology of the conflict rather than like the actual conflict itself. Like it's kind of immaterial what Baylock is ultimately because it's, as you said, right? It's like this typical sort of TV structure where you have the characters just sort of engage with each other.
You're in a box. It is. It's a psychological experiment. They've been literally doing this experiment for years, right? If you put people in a room and you tell them to wait 10 minutes and then 9 minutes in you say that you have to wait 10 minutes more, like what are people gonna do, right? How to react, and this is that, except he's like, Baylock shows up. Essentially they try to avoid the cube. We talked about this. They blast the cube.
Blow it up.
Baylock shows up and is like, well, you're clearly hostile. You have 10 minutes to live.
We believe you have a deity of some kind.
We believe you have a deity.
So
make peace with your god.
We'll give you 10 minutes out of the kindness of our hearts, essentially.
Yes, right. So then, like, the stakes are amped up.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you kind of see how people break down in the face of that.
Right, and this is their choice too, because they choose to keep going after they blow up the cube. Because there's a moment where they could just
turn around and leave,
but they're going to continue their mapping.
Right, they talk about that. They have a little conference room session. Another right.
Yeah,
they haven't been in the conference room very much.
It's been a little while, but they're all there, including Sulu and
Yep. And they have those flat little tapes.
Yes.
What are the like?
I think they're supposed to be like data discs or something.
Okay.
Like their equivalent of like a floppy.
Okay.
Like that's where they take their information because there's little slots in the table if you noticed. Like it looks like so they can put them and like that monitor too. So I think it's tied in.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're supposed to be like because I mean we're like in a super analog era still, right? We have like computer tapes. So I think it's supposed to just be like a compact, right? Like imagine like reel to reel computer tapes were huge, so they're like, well, we'll just shrink them down. Yeah, and it looks futuristic.
And I will say they're like computers. They're like screens, whatever. They look like
I know,
like the PCs we would have had in the 90s, right? They look like a personal desktop, like gateway.
It's like the big monitor, the chunky monitor with the tubes,
So just another way that, right, Star Trek is kind of majorly influencing actual technology of like the next 20, 30 years.
I just love how analog it all is. Like all the buttons, like
all the buttons, right? It's
there's
very
like
tactile.
no touch screen stuff. We'll see touch screen stuff in the next generation.
Okay.
But like for the original series, it's all like buttons and
I
light up dials.
I love a good
it's
button.
so good. And yeah, like even in for a good chunk of the movies, the original series movies too, it still stays pretty button heavy.
When I was little, I wanted to be a grocery store like cashier because I loved pressing buttons. I was like super tactile and just like absolute. I mean, we still are, right? Like, why do I have a mechanical keyboard? Because I love the feeling, right? The tactile feedback of pressing buttons. So
I've heard it said though that everything's computer.
Everything's computer. So I don't know what that means for buttons, but
bring them back.
Anyway. You do see a lot of that. This isn't completely off topic, right? You see a lot of the buttons in this episode because they spend so much time in the bridge, and because Sulu, right, is like constantly like reaching over. So Lieutenant Bailey basically like starts to lose it, right? He like can't handle this pressure.
Yeah, he's cracking.
And Sulu has to like be that guy who's like, you can't do your job, I'll do it for you, and like is reaching over and like flipping buttons and pressing things, and so yeah, there's a lot of button pushing, literally and figuratively in this episode. Especially like we said, Kirk and Bones are really pushing each other's buttons.
Yes.
They have like this exchange. Kirk basically is like, okay, we blew up the cube, we're fine now. I'm gonna go to my quarters. And Bones is like, I'll come with you. And they're chatting, they're like having a drink, and Yeoman Rand brings in Kirk's salad, and they're like chatting, and they're kind of just having this like verbal sparring.
Yeah, actually, it starts with a disagreement of Bailey.
Yes,
and then it kind of turns into this more general discussion about like Kirk needs to take better care of himself.
By eating a salad. This salad. He complains, and this is where I was curious. This was the like portion where I was curious what episode this was shot.
Yeah.
Or what order this was shot, because when Yeoman Rand comes in and brings him his salad, he's like a female Yeoman, like I want to meet the Jokers who assigned me a female Yeoman, and I'm like, well, like she's been around, so like
that's why it's so this was supposed to be right, like this,
But then that becomes kind of a, even Bones like snaps back about that. He's like, can't you trust yourself?
It's a good line.
Which is a really good line, because again, this whole kind of first 10 episodes has been this like Kirk like is like just irresistible to women sort of vibe.
And to Charlie X.
And like maybe to Spock, who knows. And I don't know, I think I just like appreciate Bones kind of like calling out this like bullshit of like, what's your deal with women, Kirk? But also I found it more interesting that so like part of the job of a yeoman is to, I guess, like serve the captain.
I think so.
Which is traditionally, and in 1968 would have been like woman's work. But Yeoman Rand is an exception because she is a woman who does this. And she's a woman who does it very well because she manages to heat up coffee when galley is out of power.
Later,
she zaps it with a phaser.
Yep. It's a strong craft that she's got.
And so I like really like love this idea that like, she's like doing woman's work, but it's actually a man's job. And she's so good at it.
She brings that salad.
She does bring that dietary salad, which Kirk reacts to literally like a grandpa.
Yeah, they're like an old married couple.
I mean,
like McCoy's like, eat your greens.
Not to drag my father-in-law, but like this is how he reacts if he sees a green
vegetable
thing. He's like, "What's this leaf?" So
he did not want his salad, but
no.
But thankfully, he's interrupted because there's a crisis again.
There is a crisis. Baylock's ship has arrived, and then gives them 10 minutes to live, and then we get to see how everyone has a mental breakdown.
My favorite is Lieutenant Bailey, who at one point screams he's doing a countdown.
Yes. Oh my god.
Because Sulu's like reporting how many minutes and seconds they have left in this countdown, and Lieutenant Bailey is like in the midst of a freak out, and Sulu says however long it is, like 8 minutes.
Yeah, 8 minutes.
43 seconds.
He's doing
a countdown. It's so good.
Yeah, so Lieutenant Bailey loses it pretty quickly.
Yeah, like we know he's gonna be the weak link.
Right, because he can't do anything, which is interesting because he has struggled to like act quickly, and now like, that's been his issue.
It's not clear to me like what causes the issue. Is he just like not?
I think he doesn't perform well under pressure.
He needs some hymns.
He's one of those.
He needs some hymns.
He doesn't perform well under pressure. But then like when the stakes are so high, he clearly like this rant that he goes on is that he feels helpless, right? He can't do anything.
No control.
We're just like sitting here waiting to be shot.
Yeah.
Which he does not like. I mean, I can't say blame.
I can't say blame either, but
but then like Kirk starts to kind of lose it as well.
Yeah, he gets snippy.
He gets really snippy too.
Well, he and Bones, I guess, both kind of do, because they get in this like fight about a report.
Yes, well, and this like, actually happened in the
that's right.
No, it happens in both episodes.
Yes.
Yep.
Like Bones is like, I'm going to put this in.
Bones is going to, and you're going to have to respond to it in your log. Yeah. So Bones like has a sneaky way of like forcing Kirk to like answer for things.
Correct. He is, as the ship's doctor, he has a certain degree of authority that supersedes the captain in certain matters, which we'll see throughout the series. But yeah, we're getting hints of it here that like he can overrule Kirk in certain instances, or at least force him to comply or make some sort of
But Kirk doesn't like it.
No.
Which again, another failing of a captain. A good captain knows when they need to like let someone else be in charge. And for whatever reason, he's okay leaving Spock in charge. He's fine.
He's the first officer,
It doesn't matter.
Well, he's the next thing.
Yeah, but like Bones is in charge of medical shit. Yeah. So like, it's not like he's trying to take over the command of the ship, but he is trying to command the thing that he's in charge of commanding. And Kirk kind of gets like snippy about it. It's like, let this man do his job.
It's because he tried to give you that fucking salad.
Well, and I think it's because perhaps Kirk doesn't, like, that is not an area of expertise that he has. Right? So and so he feels a little inferior, and, like, Bones is maybe trying to, like, overstep. Yeah. Whereas, like, he's just like, no, I'm doing my job. Don't contradict me. I get. What do you want to say about the Corbomite maneuver?
Yeah, okay, so the whole thing is this bluff.
Yes.
Right?
So that's what Spock, it all boils down to. Everyone's freaking out.
Right. So they only have like, I don't know, 2 minutes left at this point or something.
Sulu's counting down.
Yeah, and Spock's just like,
because he's that person when faced with death. He's like, well, I'm going to count down.
He's doing a countdown.
I don't know if anyone wants to know this, but there's 30 seconds left.
And but Spock makes some reference to chess.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads Kirk to say it's not chess, it's poker. So he decides he's going to bluff.
Poker?
Yeah, hardly know.
I hardly know her.
Dr. Noel. Anyway. So he says I'm going to... so he decides to bluff them instead, right? It's just, I'm going to do this bluff. So he says that the ship has this hull material called Corbomite, which is totally made up. And all of our ships have it. And if we get destroyed by somebody, it's so unstable or dangerous that it engulf whatever ship's attacking them, right? And so this bluff works.
Yep.
Of course, Baylock makes it sound like they've reconsidered.
Yes.
He doesn't admit, right, that he's actually afraid of this. So right away you have this. So ultimately what this leads to, right, is we realize that they've both been bluffing each other this entire time. Like,
yes.
Kirk does this bluff, and then we have another moment where Baylock bluffs them with this little ship. He says, like, you can't escape. Don't try to escape from your tractor beam. And then they escape from his tractor beam.
And I really love this. Like, I really love when the small ship gets involved and it just gets ridiculous.
Because there's like this giant sphere that's like a mile in diameter or something, and this smaller ship comes off it, and Baylock's like, don't think just because it's tiny.
This ship is just as powerful.
Yeah, it can still destroy you, and you can't escape the tractor beam, and then of course they do. And then they like beam onto this ship, and we've seen Baylock, or at least we think we've seen Baylock, because they like managed to reverse the signal somehow to see him.
He's a really creepy looking
alien. Yeah, and it's like kind of like it's like distorted because it's like wavy, and Baylock's kind of like a little flirty about it. He's like, oh, your curiosity satisfied now that you see me? You weren't supposed to, you savages. And
you perverts.
And then once they escape, he invites them to come on board.
Yeah, and I have some questions about that.
About the escape or the
transporting down
to the ship.
Yeah. Well, one thing about the escape first. While they're escaping, the ship's like shaking, and there are these really great shots of people in the hull.
Yes, I know. It's so wild. I'm like, why are they just like in the hull?
Back and forth and back. Like everyone else is just kind of like shaking in their seats. And then these people in the hallway are like walking on the Titanic.
Yeah, like throwing against walls. I know those shots crack me up.
But I have 2 questions about their beaming down to like go meet with Baylock. Kirk does put the Enterprise in the like hands of Spock while he's gone.
First officer,
First officer, not McCoy, R.I.P.
Well, I mean, he's a doctor, so he would not be.
I want Bones to be in charge. If you can't,
I don't know if he does or not.
If you can't get my drift here.
Yeah.
I do love Spock though. Regardless, I don't think Kirk should be in charge. As they're getting ready to transport down, Bailey and Kirk put something around their waists. Did you notice this?
Yeah.
Is it like a phaser holster?
Like, I think it's you're talking about like the belt thing. Yeah, it's like for the phaser. I think the communicator also.
Okay, because it looks like it's just like it didn't look like it was like a pocket. It just looked like it was like a piece of fabric. So like I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and they change it to show.
You also told me that McCoy doesn't use a transporter.
He does not, or he doesn't like to. He will if he has to, but he doesn't like to.
Okay. You told me that he won't.
Well, he refuses to, but if he has to, and I don't. That might be a trait that comes up later because he mentions it.
He hasn't really mentioned it. No, he hasn't really mentioned it.
He didn't mention any of them. Okay, yeah. So maybe that's an interesting thing you notice because that character trait has not been developed yet then because it does become a big thing where he's like, I don't want my atoms scrambled across the galaxy. Yeah. So it becomes a trait later.
Well, he hasn't really.
No, and I don't know if it comes up more when like the production starts to include them using like shuttlecraft.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. So those are my questions about beaming. So thank you for answering those. So they go down to this little ship, and Scotty's like, "Be careful, it's a little tight down there," and they're like, "Okay." And so they all crouch down. And then they get onto this ship, and it's like a dummy. Like Baylock is like a dummy, which is so incredible because this, this could be the alien.
Yeah.
Because of the production value of the show.
I mean, I think it looks better than something else. I mean, it doesn't look that bad.
Right. Like, this could be the alien, but then they're like, no, this is a dummy or a puppet or something.
So
and I'm
what
like,
they call it, yeah. You're like,
huh?
what?
What a waste of this beautiful dummy.
I mean, he does look pretty.
And then it's Clint Howard.
That's right. It's Johnny Bark from Arrested Development.
It is one of the Who's from Whoville. It's
the craziest fucking eyebrows.
Literally a guy you've seen everywhere. Yeah. Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother.
My note is a fucking baby. What the fuck?
that was basically my exact reaction.
He's just a lonely boy who likes his punch. He offers everybody a punch.
He loves his punch.
Everyone's rightly suspicious of the punch at first.
Yep. He has a man's voice, so he's like lip.
He's dubbed, yeah. So there's actually 3 people who are playing this character, right? Because when it's
the puppeteer,
the voice in the ship and the puppet, yeah, it is.
Oh, it's actually a different voice. Then.
Yes, okay. Yeah, that voice of the puppet is the guy who played Lurch again. I asked him, it's his voice.
Okay.
So he's the voice of the puppet, and then we have another voice of
Baylock
that's dubbed. Yeah. Which I didn't recognize the guy, but he was in like a bunch of he's like the Bob Newhart show and Dukes of Hat. Like he's all like I don't know, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Not a name I recognize.
And then you have Clint Howard.
Yes, correct.
And if you don't, I mean, if you do not know who we're talking about,
you do.
You do. Google Clint Howard. You have seen him in something.
Waterboy, Apollo 13.
Yep.
My Name is Earl. He's on more than one Star Trek.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yep.
Arrested Development, because he's Ron Howard's brother.
Yep. Married with Children.
Yep.
Seinfeld.
Yep.
Heroes.
I thought I was in Heroes.
Yeah. He's a guest star on one of the episodes.
Oh yeah, he's a guest star on most of these things, but you know who he is.
Backdraft, Parenthood. Yeah, he's been on a Cinderella Man.
Yep.
Like he's just in a lot of stuff. So yeah, you definitely know who he is, and yeah, he was 7 when this episode was filmed.
He looks younger.
He's
because they shaved.
Tiny.
Well,
they shaved his
head.
And I think they also shaved his eyebrows and put different eyebrows.
They put fake eyebrows on him.
Yeah, and he has like wonky little kid teeth.
Oh, he's got the craziest.
I mean, he always has crazy teeth, but
they were crazier when he was a child.
I mean, for a 7-year-old, he does a pretty good job.
I think he does a great job.
Yeah, I mean, for like being 7, he's pretty convincing.
For being a 7-year-old actor who is being dubbed, he does a really good job. I think the only time I'm not convinced is at the end when he like stands up and he like grabs Bones' arm and he like grabs Kirk's hand or something. And I'm like, now you look like a little child who's being carried off to bed by your dads.
He says, he's like, I had to bluff you because you wouldn't be afraid of me.
Yes, he said, like, who would be frightened of me? And I'm kind of like, I might be.
Yeah, but not for the reasons you're thinking. And Bailey's like, I'll stay with the little kid.
Yeah,
it's just
like that's weird. That's really weird. So Baylock basically is like, I'm lonely.
Yeah, he's a lonely boy.
He's a lonely boy. He wants to like learn about other aliens, right?
Yeah. He's like a benign Charlie X.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. Like he's like he has a lot of power, but he's still like a child and kind of naive and is curious about other races of people.
Yeah, and it's like it's a cool ending to the episode because this is, I think, one of the first times we hear that like their primary like mission of the Enterprise is to learn about alien.
Yeah, because I think Spock somebody says it straight up. Is it Kirk
and Spock? I think both say it. Yeah. Like that their primary objective is to learn about alien races. While Baylock also wants to learn about alien races, right? So like,
just like them.
It's exactly. And so I think it is like a very fitting end to the episode, but it is really weird that like Kirk is like, Bailey, do you know anyone like that? And he's like, well, I'll stay.
I'll stay with the child.
And I'm like,
you know me, Captain. I'm a huge pervert.
I really wanted to see him on that screen.
I just want to hang out with that puppet, sir.
So like, I like the ending, but that feels a little forced to me.
Yeah, also like how's he gonna get back? He's just gonna stay with this child for like
there's an implication that like they'll pick him up at some point, but
they're gonna forget about
they're gonna leave him. Listen, my note says Kirk is very willing to just leave Bailey with Baylock.
I mean,
which like
after the display Bailey gave on the bridge, critical moment.
Yeah, Kirk is like, get him out of here. But I appreciate kind of the sentiment, right, that Kirk says. They say, Baylock says, oh, are you like the best and brightest that your species has to offer? And Bailey's like, not at all. And Kirk is like, but you'll learn more about us that way. Yeah. And I think that, like, again, that speaks to kind of the whole episode, right? Like, we've learned more about the crew from this episode because they were like under pressure. They weren't at their best and brightest. So I think like it was a really weird episode, and I also said it's a fucking baby. What the fuck? At the end, but I actually think that it wraps up really nicely.
Yeah, I think it's great.
And kind of like references itself very interestingly in those final moments.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I think it's very good.
I don't know if it's one of my favorites, and definitely watching it like the first time, I was like, "What is going on?" But then the second watch through, it definitely grew on me. But again, as a first time watcher, it was kind of an eyebrow raise until the very end, and then I just was like dying laughing at little baby Clint. And I didn't recognize him at first. Oh, okay. I was looking up because, drumroll please, one of my main obsession from this episode is like anything that any drinks come in. There's some really incredible glassware throughout this episode, and also the coffee carafe is really cool. Yeah. So I was Googling like Star Trek mid-century glassware, and of course all you're gonna get is like Star Trek logo glassware. Yeah. So then I Googled like Star Trek Corbomite Maneuver glasses, and Clint Howard's name popped up, and I was like, I know who
Johnny Bark?
I know who that is. So that's how, like, I didn't recognize him right as like the baby. Because why would you? I mean, his head is shaved. He's got fake eyebrows on. His teeth are crazy. But yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so my obsession this episode was definitely all this really cool stemware and the coffee carafe. And Sulu's countdown, I really loved, because we all know that person who, like, in a time of crisis,
focuses on
is like counting down, essentially. The fatalist, maybe, Aaron, a little bit like
you. A pointed remark.
And I don't know if this is an obsession, but Scotty makes a comment about Spock's mother that really just tickles me. Incredible. Spock says that he wants to learn more. He was like disappointed that Baylock is gone because he really wanted to learn more about him. He reminded him of his father.
Yeah, weird. I don't know why.
And what does Scotty say about Spock's mother? Do you remember?
It's like the effect of your poor mother, right?
Yeah, he's like, I pity your mother, something like that. Yeah. Which is, and Spock was like, no, she was quite happy.
Yeah, with a Vulcan man or something. Yeah. It's like very like, okay.
Why was she happy?
He's got a huge dick.
Maybe. Wait, they haven't talked about it yet, so I wouldn't know.
No, fortunately, it's not something that comes up in any iteration.
But yeah, I really loved that little. I like kind of anytime Scotty's around, he's a bit of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. I mean, like I said it before, it's a great ensemble cast, and it only gets better when there's more of them around and they get more screen time. And
poor
Uhura. That's why the movies are so good.
Poor Uhura, she was like in this whole episode, and she had maybe like two other lines, but mostly she just said, "Hailing frequency open, sir." Yeah. She did a great job. She delivered it wonderfully.
She did.
I have a few general questions.
Yeah, sure. Shoot.
Okay. Why do
be careful. I'm covered in Corbomite.
Okay. I will. Why do the windows on an Enterprise seem so random? Like when they show an outside, they're like, I think they're windows.
You're talking about the little light spots?
Are those windows?
Yeah.
Why are they so random? They're like really, there's no rhyme or reason to how they're placed.
Yeah, I don't know. It has to do with, I guess, otherwise you're asking what they correspond to in the ship?
I don't know. They just are so random. Do you know why?
No. Okay. No, I don't know why. I mean, there's
no pattern. They just are kind of here and there.
Yeah, I forget how many decks are on the ship, but something that's probably.
So not everyone gets a window, though.
No. In the later ones, there's more windows.
Okay.
Like the Next Generation one, I think it's easier to determine how the windows work, but there are less on this version.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was an unsatisfying answer, but that's okay.
Sorry, homie.
Okay, this is my only other question, but I think it's going to be a controversial one.
Uh-oh.
Why is Spock not in charge
of the ship? He's not the captain.
But why isn't he captain?
He's not the captain.
Why isn't he captain?
He isn't yet.
That's not an answer to my question, though. Spock would be a much better captain than Kirk.
You think?
Yes.
Okay.
I think
they complement each other.
Yeah, but then why can't Spock be captain and Kirk can be the first mate?
I mean, well, we'll see. Not an exact version of that, but the Next Generation does flip the script a little bit in that way. Like, it puts a more Kirk-like figure as the first officer and a more Spock-like figure as the captain. So, does happen. And Spock does eventually become a captain later.
But why is he not in charge now?
Don't know.
I'm asking the tough questions, people.
Because he's not the captain.
Because he's not the sex symbol. They couldn't make him quite as sexy as Captain Kirk.
Probably not.
Leonard Nimoy didn't want to be shirtless. It was in his contract. Meanwhile, William Shatner was like, I must appear shirtless at least 10 times a season.
I don't think he'll be shirtless in the next one.
And I have to throw one real
you gotta get a good punch.
fisticuffs punch in. He did that in the
first Dagger of the Mind.
Yeah.
He punches out Dr. Out. Hits somebody.
He hits one of his little cronies. Yeah.
Kicks somebody. But yeah, we got a big one coming up next, a two-parter.
Yeah.
The Menagerie, which you know a little bit about, I feel like.
Yeah.
Talked about it.
I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
I know that parts of the original pilot were incorporated into the Menagerie.
Yep.
Do you want
parts of the cage?
Do you want me to watch the cage?
I don't think it's necessary because there's a good chunk of it gets
because it is on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you want to, you can watch it, but you don't. I don't think you need to. Understand what's going on.
Yes.
If I remember right, there's quite a bit of it that's pulled into this because it's 2 50-minute episodes.
Yeah,
and a lot of it is flashback or like log. I forget what the narrative. I forget what the narrative frame is, but yeah,
something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm excited.
So that'll be when we talk about.
I'm intrigued.
So we'll hold off on the Conscience of the King.
Okay,
which is the one after because it's 2-part. So.
Yeah.
But our ratings. How do you rate these out of 10 tribbles? Dagger of the Mind first.
Dagger of the Mind, I think I would give like 9 out of 10 tribbles. Mm-hmm. It was very good. I just loved everything about it, except Kirk kind of being a scumbum. That takes away. Don't at me for my attitude towards Kirk. Keeping in mind, I am watching this show for the first time. I have no preconceived notions of Kirk, and this is just my raw, real emotional reaction to him.
Are you telling me a man has never shoved you into an HV?
No, maybe that's why I don't like it. Maybe I'm like, oh, I really want that, and so I'm like, something repressed. No man has ever shoved me into an HVAC system head first and shut the door on me. After declaring his love for me under the effects of some sort of hypnosis. I'm just jealous. No. Kirk's attitude in this episode is like a -1 point for me. I just don't like his attitude. I just don't like his vibe. Corbomite Maneuver. Oh, yeah.
I'd give it an 8, I think. It's very good.
What are your subtractions for?
I just think I know there's better episodes coming.
So? Can you only deal out so many?
Well, it's a little bit relative, yeah. I mean, I can't rate it a 10 knowing that there's only a handful of 10s.
Well, I didn't ask you to rate it a 10.
Yes, you rated a 9.
But you did say...
I think it's very good.
Okay. I can't rate it relative to anything.
I know, it's fine.
Me dumb. I've never seen any Star Trek. It's a Starstruck. I don't know.
And then the Corbomite, yeah.
Is this the one where they fight Darth Vader? Corbomite Maneuver, 6. Okay. I'm giving it a 6 as like my initial reaction to it.
Oh, okay.
Right? So like I'm trying to think of the way I felt the first. So for anyone listening, I'm watching the episodes twice, right? I watch it the first time just to like absorb, and then the second time I take notes and everything because, right, I don't want to miss anything because I'm taking notes. The first time I watched the Corbomite Maneuver, I was like so unsure of what was going on. And coming off of Dagger of the Mind, which is so beautifully paced, this episode did not have that for me. But the end really elevated it. So a 6 out of 10 troubles, maybe 7 if I'm feeling generous. But I think my kind of initial reaction was I did not love this as much. But the more I thought about it, and honestly, like the sound that the like I will say the sound, I know it was music, but by the time I had watched this twice in like 24 hours, I don't ever want to hear the music that the Cube makes ever again. Are you giving this one a 10?
No, I'm gonna give it an 8 as well.
Why not a 10?
It takes a little while to get to where it's going.
Yeah, that was my issue.
I think that's my only real complaint with it, honestly. Because I like the premise. I think it's fun that it does keep us in the dark for a while. I think the final reveal is great. I love it. I love the Clint Howard. Like, I think it's great. I think the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's really fun at the end.
Yeah, it's very fun. I like the puppet thing. Like, it's very self-referential in a way that I find fun. Self-aware. But I think it takes a little too long to get to the reveal.
Yeah.
Like, it feels stretched at points.
Now I feel bad rating is so low, but that's okay.
It's fine.
Again, you've seen all these before.
I have. Yeah.
So, like, I think you're...
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of ones that I know are going to be 10s when we get there.
What if I don't rate them 10s?
That's fine.
We have to cancel the podcast. Will we agree to disagree again?
We can agree to disagree. Unless you rate like a 1, then I'm going to be like, the pod is over.
What if I ask you to rate it first?
No, that makes it 10. No, you got to rate it first because you're the. I have preconceived notions about what's coming.
So. And then I'm the troll and I rated a 1 just because you rated it a 10.
You could do that. No one would believe you.
You don't know. I'm allowed to have opinions.
You are, but I can't imagine it would be that far apart.
You heard it here first, folks. Aaron doesn't think I'm allowed to have opinions. And if they're different from his, they must be a joke.
No, I think it was if I rate something a 10 and he rated a 1 based on our track record so far, I would be able to tell you we're being a troll.
Come answer my riddles 3.
But yeah, the menagerie is next. We're gonna meet Captain Christopher Pike.
Is he someone I should know?
I mean, you will by the end of the episode.
No, Sherlock.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about him, I think, when we briefly talked about the cage.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything. So
I don't remember anything. Here's the thing. Aaron remembers everything.
That's not true at all.
And I remember I've got the brain of a mayfly.
Someone who had the neural whatever it's called used on them.
Because a mayfly just dies after like a day. But I don't remember as much as Aaron.
Well,
but also he's seen all these.
This memory has nothing to do with this.
I need those little cards to like insert into myself to remember.
They are cool. They also look like they taste good.
Yeah, they do.
Like, I don't know. They look like they would taste good. I don't know. They're like a shiny plastic.
Maybe they were candy.
Maybe. They click clack on things. I think they're plastic, or maybe even like.
Okay, but you just said they look like they would taste good. They're like a shiny plastic. So
I would eat shiny plastic.
Okay.
We're already full of microplastics. True. Give me some macroplastics, baby.
It's true.
So next time, two-parter.
Two-parter.
You're gonna meet Captain Christopher Pike.
I can't
one
wait.
of the iconic characters of the original series.
Okay.
So.
Okay. That's what I need to know.
But he's an
That's
iconic
fine.
character.
Okay.
Unlike Harry Mudd.
I'm so excited.
All right. Till next time, beam us up,
baby.